everybody, final thoughts time for U-Boat, the board game. And wow, I mean, this is a game and a half. It is so big, so expansive. And, it's so obvious that this was made with love from true aficionados of the subject matter of World War II submarine warfare, because, man, this game takes it to 11 in terms of trying to allow you to project yourself into the boots of these sailors. Because, I mean, you are so readily and regularly faced with the kinds of tense, nail-biting, no right decision type scenarios in this game as, the pressure gets put on you. Once the enemy destroyers are chasing you, I start out as the hunter, now I am the hunted. We are terrified. They're dropping depth charges. We're springing leaks. We're getting bulkhead breaches. The electricity is failing. People are getting poison gas in their face. We only have so much time. Everybody's down. And what can the captain do? Well, I can give them some chocolate to help the morale as we sink. The game is just absolutely incredibly intense. And I don't think my run-through necessarily does a good enough job of showing that. Really, you should think of what I just did as kind of an introductory video that just gives you an idea of how the core systems work. Because, of course, all I can play is the opening scenario, and I've played that thing a dozen times now or so, and you might not be able to tell from the run-through because there's just so much to it. But, oh my gosh, once the game goes on a little bit more, after you've engaged in combat and you are under assault yourself, the game really puts you through the ringer. That's why if you watch all the way through, I worked so hard to avoid getting spotted at all because it is tough to come back from that. And therefore, because of that, you didn't quite see everything you might have seen. I mean, you didn't see the mini game that the chief engineer has to play where, once the hull is breached, they have to kind of make this puzzle game under extreme time condition. And it's a tough little puzzle to do. And if they fail, then an entire bulkhead has to be shut down, and now half of the submarine is cut off from half of the team, and the other half's over there, and this sense of claustrophobia and impending doom just gets worse and worse. So anyway, if you view my video as just kind of an introduction to how the flow works, how orders are given, how you keep track of who can do what, go onto the Kickstarter page. You can hit that eye in the top right corner of the screen. There is actually a run-through of a group of 4 players on there that I watched all the way through, even though it was like an hour and a half long. And oh my gosh, the adventure these guys had, I think really makes clear. And actually, I'll put a link directly to their video there as well, so you can just go straight to it. You gotta check it out. It starts out kind of slow, like what you saw with me, kind of a routine patrol mission, and then you run across a convoy, and you saw me just beginning to do something there. With them, you see the situation where everything can go wrong, and yet somehow they keep on fighting and struggling and making these impossible decisions, and sacrificing things to try to stay alive. That's the high drama this game can deliver, and it's amazing when it does. The systems it uses are really interesting too. I mean, all 4 players, and really, in a perfect world, you're going to want to play this as a 4-player game because each player has a very, very different role. And, it's interesting too, really kind of clearly delineated roles. If you suffer from a group that has an alpha player that is just kind of annoying and wants to give everybody orders, this game delivers the ultimate goal for him because, as the captain, it is your job to get everybody. It is your job because you don't have to do very much until the torpedoes fly. All you need to do is just keep a track of what everybody else is doing so that you know that, right, okay, if I give this order, it's really going to push us to the limit. I should plan and, kind of direct everybody, but still, everybody else is having to make their own decisions because at the end of the day, you give the orders, it's up to them to figure out how to carry them out. The engineer and the first officer and the navigator. Oh my gosh, the navigator. Definitely the toughest job in this game because, it's interesting, the navigator has the majority of their game removed from the board itself. I mean, the navigator's job in terms of observation is really simple. Yeah, okay, we just get some guys up on the deck and they look through what do you call it there, binoculars, and every once in a while they have to do a little cooking mini game. That stuff is not particularly challenging, and that's because the having to plot courses and attack vectors and all that stuff is really, really challenging, and in a way that so closely mimics the reality of what a navigator on board one of these ships was doing in World War II. That is absolutely amazing. So you have to have the right type of player in that goal because it's interesting. Like I said, the developers here really want you to feel like you're having to go through the same experience, but in a way that is fun. So like one of the most interesting design choices is, once you're submerged, you'd think, oh, okay, yeah, look, I just want periscope up. I've got the little app. I can look around the periscope. I can keep track of what they're doing. I want to keep that periscope live forever, so I can constantly keep track. And it would certainly make sense that somebody would do that. But the problem is, they made a design decision to prevent that. Once you're looking through the periscope with the app, and by the way, it's really cool. If you have a gyroscope in your phone, you can look around like this instead of just swiping with your finger. So again, creates more of that sense of you are there. But the interesting thing is, you can look through the periscope, you can get the bearing, you can get the location of the troops, but when a repair comes up, or when you have to initiate some other action like changing speed or changing depth, you have to put the periscope away. And if you want to bring the periscope back out, you got to spend another command action, and those things are precious. There are so few of them. And so you can't just really push the hydrophone or the sonar, the hydrophone or the periscope, because that means you're wasting tons of action. And that represents thematically a captain who is spending too much time just, I'm just going to do all this myself. I'm the hero captain, and not enough time relying on his navigator. Because if you're a sharp navigator, you don't need to look at anything. You know what the speeds of these ships are. You know what their course is. And if you work closely with your first officer, you know how much time has passed. So you can actually figure all this stuff out kind of longhand. And that's what I was saying. That's why I started to say the navigator has this incredible job that has very little to do with the board that's going on, more so than any of the other characters. The other characters, they're more tied into the immediacy of what's on the ship. What are our problems? Whereas the navigator is focusing everything on what's outside of the ship. I can't see it. I can't hear it. How can I figure out where they are so we know when the right time to fire is? That's very, very cool. It does make it very challenging. It means, like what you saw me doing in the video was actually, again, very poor captaining, just kind of bogarting the sonar, when in fact there are other ways to figure it out. But the reality is I just couldn't handle it all myself, folks. The interesting thing is this plays from 1 to 4. The version I've got right now, there's no scaling for that at all. If you're going to play this solo, you just have to control all 4 characters and do the work of 4 people managing 32 crew members. It's insane, it's crazy, and you saw the results if you watched all the way through as my brain just kind of melted. But never fear, solo fans. I have talked to the developers, and the app is still early days. It's a little buggy. They've got a lot of work to do. There's no music. There's only 1 mission. But one of the things is they plan on doing is, if you're playing at a lower player count, a 2-player game or a 1-player game or what have you, or 3-player game, that the app will kind of pick up the slack. That yes, your players are still responsible for all of the decisions that the 4 players would make in a 4-player game, but they get streamlined a little bit. Like the example they gave me is, in the full 4-player game, if there's somebody who needs medical attention, the first officer is responsible for getting their person to the right place with the right stuff in a timely manner to be able to treat them so that they don't suffer anymore. If you're playing at the lower player count, the game will be streamlined. So I think they said you don't have to worry about what type of treatment. You just have to get somebody to treat, and the treatment just takes care of itself. Or there's other things, like I didn't show it, but to move your tool chest from one room to another to deal with emergencies, somebody has to actually go grab that tool chest and carry it. But a simpler version of the game is, no, the tool chest can just automatically move during a mobilization. So I know they're still planning on a lot of streamlining and simplification. So if you were put off by just how overwhelming it was for a solo game to cover all of these bases all at once, they recognize that. They are working on that to try and make it a little bit more solo friendly. But still, even if they do that, there's no getting around it. This game is going to be as best as a 4-player game. And I'm happy to say, thanks to Andre, Mark, and June, some gamers here in Malta, who got together with me and actually taught me how to play the game. And I have actually gotten to play it a couple times as a full 4-player game. So I've had the whole experience of a 4-player, and I played it solo. And I got to say, the amount of interaction between players, it's just through the roof. Although, if you have different types of different groups or different players in your group who have different skill sets, the game really got you covered. It requires a very certain mindset to be able to do the navigator. It requires a tech-savvy person to be able to deal with all the app stuff. It requires kind of a bossy bosserson who thinks 5 turns in advance to be a really good captain. And the interesting thing is the engineer arguably, he has the simpler job. I mean, more than anything else, his job is managing his crew, because more than anybody else, when you shift, what do you call it? When you shift watches, he's got 2 sets of 4 group. They change radically, and so you're always having to make sure the right people are in the right place. Because your engineers, between all the repairs they have to do and between all the engine maintenance they have to do and the ballast, they are pushed to the limit. So it's much more of a resource management game for that player, because that's their main focus. So the game really kind of caters to all sorts of play styles, and it really is pretty special when it all comes together. Provided you get the right people in the right crew. So I definitely think it's very, very cool. Definitely not for me and Jen, in large part because, Jen, that's the thing. I had to go play with some other people because Jen would not play this game with me. She had no desire to role play, military personnel who are doing everything they can to kill hundreds, if not thousands of people. I was just too much of a turnoff, and I totally get Jen's perspective. It's somber stuff. There's nothing silly about this game. And I think that's worth mentioning because I'm sure a lot of people are going to say, well, we already have Captain Sonar. Why would we play this when we can play Captain Sonar? Well, right off the bat, that's a team versus team. This is a cooperative game. If you don't want to be trying to actively destroy fellow players, but you just want to work with other players, the cooperative nature of this is going to be a little bit more interesting. And I got to say, that app is the integration, even though it's kind of early days, is so good. I played Captain Sonar, and a big part of that game is knowing that, the enemy team, they're right there. You can hear everything they're saying, and a big part of the gameplay is actually paying attention to that. Here, what they're doing up on the surface when you're 30 feet down trying to stay hidden, it's terrifying. Because you don't have enough actions to be able to seek them out. You're having to rely on your navigator to try to intuit where they are and have this kind of 3D mental space in their head. And they could be doing anything up there because it's all run by the app. There's no, we can hear what they're saying. We know exactly what they're doing. We know what their situation is. This game is scary. It is literally, the tension is not just, this is a really tough decision. What am I going to do? The tension is like, we're going to die. What are we going to do? You really feel that way because that's the nature of submarine warfare. You're incredibly you're a glass cannon. You're incredibly powerful, but you're incredibly easy to shatter and break. You're so fragile that you'll get in, get out, try to stay away from them, and then once systems start failing, oh my gosh. So it works really well, and so this is for people who maybe think that Captain Sonar, this is cool, this is kooky, this is fun. But you know what? This is serious business. This is serious warfare. I want a serious game, and that's what this is. That's what I was saying right up front. This was made with love and reverence from people who respect the hardships that these sailors went through, and they try to let you walk a mile in their shoes. Of course, there's nothing about other than the fact everybody's talking German. The game doesn't really delve, at least that I've seen, into the fundamental morality of the war because these people aren't doing that. They're just serving their homeland, trying to follow orders as best they can or give orders as best they can. And if you got the right group for it and your right mindset, it can be really amazing. And if you want to see that in action, again, I cannot stress enough, go check out that run through. Like I said, it's insane how much stuff happens. So many highs, so many lows. Like I said, mine was an introduction to let you know how it works. Now you can go watch that video and see what can happen. And you have, in the back of your mind, you know how it works and what you have to do to solve those problems. This is a neat game. Not going to be for everybody, but for the people who are very, very excited about this because they have been looking for a serious simulation that they can sit around the table and share with their friends who share their passion for this subject matter, it's kind of a no-brainer. That's it, folks. That is U-Boat. And thanks very much for watching. Have a very, very nice day. Talk to you later. So long. Bye-bye.